Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Elevate, an online learning platform for fundraising event professionals. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristen Steele and Samantha Swaim.
Hello, welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. We have a couple of exciting announcements before we start the show today. I want to start by kicking us off to remind everyone that coming up soon, we have the Elevate Conference. And it may not seem soon, it's in March 2nd, or March 12th and 13th, a 2-day hybrid event. But it is your chance to take your fundraising event to school. And we have an early bird special that is good for the next couple of weeks. It expires November 8th. It is a 50% off savings on your virtual ticket and 25% off your in-person ticket. So we hope folks will join us. That being said, today we are here to talk about the current amazing, exciting political scene that is happening. We want to encourage folks to think about jumping in and looking at local offices. We've seen so many changes happening in who's running, communities that are running, and our nonprofit sector is full of amazing leaders that should be considering how they can continue their mission work in elected office. So we have invited CM Hall here. CM Hall is a city councilor and has been working for decades with us in organizing, in working for amazing causes, in volunteering. She is a donor. She is a guest. She attends lots of great events. She knows a lot about event fundraising, and she's a sign language interpreter. So she is also interpreted at events for us. So CM, we're excited to have you here. Kristen, let's formally and officially introduce her.
Most recently, she is the first out queer person elected to the city council in Newport, Oregon in 2018 and re-elected in 2022.
Yes!
CM has worked as a fundraiser and political strategist for nonprofit organizations and campaigns and produced an annual coming out monologue storytelling fundraiser in Portland for 6 years. She is a nationally certified sign language interpreter and is the co-director for the Pro-Tactile Language Interpreting National Education Program, an interpreter training grant, and teaches deaf-blind culture, communication, and co-navigating, as well as LGBTQ sociology courses at Western Oregon University. Perhaps she sleeps. We don't know. She is also the host of the podcast, Her Own Wings. Opening question, big question. CM, I feel like we could talk about a bazillion things today. Like the newly developing pro-tactile language, your work in higher ed, your activism, but let's talk running for office. Tell us about your journey in running for office.
Let's also start and talk with the fact that you two are also trailblazers, talking about everyone's second favorite F word, third favorite F word, fundraising. I think it's really important to demystify the F word and get people to talk about it in real ways. So I just want to say thank you for inviting me on. I am absolutely happy to talk to you about my own journey running for office. And it really started back in the 1900s when I was a young queer person, and I came out right before Oregon's second anti-LGBTQ ballot measure, No on 13 in 1994. And watching that happen as a young queer person where there were literally basically no protections for queer folks, and knowing that we needed to do something, it really sparked my activism in a very big way. And recognizing, how do you raise money for something where you don't necessarily have the majority of public opinion on your side?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that, right? So I think it really sharpened my skills. And I went on to do more of that. And then just also more campaigning as a field operative on different campaigns, running campaigns. And then that took me to Basic Rights Oregon in the year 2000 with the second iteration of the No on 9 campaign. But my own journey really was in 2018, as you mentioned, and knowing that I had a life of experience that prepared me. I understood what boards were about. I understood what public representation was about. And I also understood what leadership was. Sometimes popular, oftentimes not, and recognizing that I had a moment and I could really capitalize on that. And I got very lucky because I knew that Newport was going to be my spiritual and forever home. And so I could run here, and I felt like I could do more here. And I ran, but the name CM Hall is a little bit cryptic. People don't know what initials are. They still are very curious about them. And I go by CM because I'm a sign language interpreter, and Cheryl Meredith was way too long for my deaf teacher to finger spell. And she got finger tied and just gave up. And this is over 30 years ago, and just said, I'm calling you CM. And I think everyone was like, thank God we need just initials for her. So it just became my name, right? So I wanted to do a lot to campaign my first time, and I had to fundraise to do that. I think small races, scale is really important. I had been on national presidential campaigns. I'd been on statewide ballot measure campaigns. I'd run state representative campaigns. So like very different scales.
Yeah.
And a city council campaign in a rural community. When I talked to the other serving at the time, city councilors, I asked them, like, what was your budget? And just fully preparing myself for what I would have to do fundraising wise. And they said 5, 6, and I'm like, 1,000? They're like, 100. And I'm like, oh, I'm very like not accustomed to this scale of campaign.
Yeah.
But because I needed some name ID, I did mail. And that was important for me because I was in a situation where there was someone else who was in an elected position in my community with the same first initial C and the last name Claire Hall. And so because Claire Hall was out there, I didn't want people to be confused.
Yep.
And she was a known, but I was not as known. So I needed to raise money to do campaign mail and put my face on those mailers to get them in people's mailboxes. So that just, it upped the budget that I had for my campaign.
Yeah. The thing I want to underscore here that I'm hearing for folks that are out there listening, do it. Right? Like you were so well positioned in terms of experience and all those things, but you still have to make the choice moment. And it's not like somebody walks up to you and says, hey, I've got this job. Why don't you just step into it? Right? Political office is about you seeing a solution for a problem and stepping into the space. And so thank you for doing that one.
Yes.
And I want other folks to hear that. We're not waiting around for everybody to ask us to play, right? It's us knowing that we have space to do that.
And can I add to that,
Yeah.
Kristen, because do it when you can.
Yes.
But there isn't a ready moment at the same time. The Pew Research Center has studied, and they talk about all these obstacles for why women don't run for office. They don't feel prepared. They have family responsibilities and obligations. I started the Her Own Wings podcast to feature women because we don't have enough women running for office.
Right. Yeah.
I had been through the candidate training program, Emerge Oregon, which is a chapter of Emerge America to train women to run for office. And specifically, my background, I am a Democrat. I know this is not a partisan podcast, but it is a Democratic training program. But women on average have to be asked repeatedly to run for office. And I get it. Like, you don't necessarily have your hierarchy of needs met. Running for office is not at the top of that list. I had an eye on this. I knew that this was a way I could contribute, and I thought I would be good at it.
Yep.
And so I was preparing years in advance for this. I recognize I'm a bit of an outlier on that, right? But I also had a background in politics and campaigns. I don't think you have to have years out. I think do it. Show up at some meetings, meet some folks, get on a committee if you can. Do some of that to understand the process, but there isn't a magical wand that's going to say, you're now ready.
Right.
You just have to know that, like, you're going to contribute an experience and a voice. And as our vice president says, like, sometimes you have to kick the door down and let other people and help other people kind of see, like, look what's in here. And so I hope that I do that for others as well.
You do.
Yes.
You absolutely do. I want to continue to demystify the F word, which I actually think needs to be a tagline everywhere now. and surface the idea of house parties, because I do feel like this is a place where our nonprofit friends tuning in today and political fundraising, this is the merge, right? This is the model merge.
Absolutely.
That's good for everyone. So I am wondering if you can talk about this is a fundraising tool.
Yeah.
Do you know my history with fundraising and house parties?
Well, I know that you have run many house party campaigns in the nonprofit sector, which I think is honestly why the nonprofit world is ready to be leading in political spaces, because there is such connection and overlap. But the house party model is a model that came out of the political world, got adopted into the nonprofit world. You've run them in both spaces. So connect the dots for us and share with us about the model.
She's ready to
and
go,
how
folks.
It works.
Watch out.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
So I've done like a house party here and there when I had run like a state rep race. But when I was hired onto the No on 9 campaign in 2000 to defeat an anti-LGBT ballot measure in Oregon, I was the house party coordinator. And this was before the internet, basically. We did not have a computer. I was working with a binder and a phone. And my goal was 225 house parties, raising $1,000 each. And I had less than 3 months to do it. And so I had to work with all of the hosts and make sure they were clear and send out things in the mail, and get things back in the mail and just try to, amp up people. And by the end, we had, I want to clarify, we had a goal of 175 house parties. I had toppled that goal, and we had 225 house parties, and we raised $280,000.
Amazing.
In that 3-month period of time.
Love it.
Which I'm very proud of, and felt like Laura for quite a while. And so it was so much about, I think one of the things that is my superpower is cheerleading and enthusiasm. And I just recognize that is a strength of mine. So I need to like lean into it.
Yes.
And I did.
Yes.
And I was on the phone, and I was amping up people and telling it, like following up with people. And I had systems and checklists and all of that stuff, again, before the internet, before computers. So it was old school, but it was effective. And again, this was a very interesting period of time. So we had LGBTQ allies come out and host house parties. We had LGBTQ folks hosting house parties, and recognizing that we still didn't necessarily have a majority of people who were outspokenly in our camp. So it was still a bit of a dance of like, are you with us? Are you with us? And I think I just kind of internally have that. I don't know if you do, but like as a queer person, I have this sense of like, I'm constantly always like gauging, are you with me? Are you pro LGBTQ? And I think some of that was born out of anti-LGBT ballot measures.
Yeah.
Are you with me only here in your living room?
Right.
Or are you with me when we go out into the street? Yes.
Right. So just getting really clear about messaging and having to like talk to people about why this matters. And what's so critical to the success of the campaign is these house parties and getting people in a room excited about an issue or excited about a candidate, right?
Yep.
Or excited about a nonprofit organization. And I've since done house parties for many a candidate, organizations as well. I think the magic sauce is just, are you excited? Because that's really the basic part that you have to start with. Like, are you amped up? And then you can get other people excited. So much about what we look at, like in terms of how people are going to vote or how, where people are going to put their money is, did someone ask them? Is someone excited about asking them and like having a genuine conversation about it?
Yep.
It feels kind of granular, but it's important.
Without that, what is there?
Well, and the model itself is built on relationships.
Yes.
It's if you are running for office and I'm asked to host a house party for you, the idea is that I'm bringing my friends to the table, my relationships to the table. So I have to be excited to be able to influence folks. Honestly, I have to be excited to be able to say, yeah, I'm going to open my house and plan this event. But for the nonprofit friends out there, I feel like it's a model that translates really well to a board of directors, each hosting and sharing their story. But it also is a tool that we've seen post-COVID as a really impactful tool for raising money for a documentary film, raising money for a campaign effort. I mean, it's such an incredible model. You brought to the table early in this discussion that you had a lot of experience in the nonprofit sector. I had an experience recently where my sister-in-law jumped in her local race. She is running as a blue dot in a ruby red community. And she said to me, I don't know anything about fundraising. I'm like, I know all kinds of stuff about fundraising, but I do not know campaign fundraising. Can you talk about what is different for our nonprofit friends who say, maybe I want to consider school board, or maybe I want to consider my city council? What is different in campaign fundraising?
So a couple of things. One, I have done a number of workshops, and I literally do call it demystifying the F word, because I talk to candidates or potential candidates to think about this. And I have been called by folks running for office, and I can tell if they believe in themselves or not, or if they really understand their message. Like, you have to have clarity of message and why you are the answer to that. Mm-hmm. Those are essential. This podcast is going to be heard by people all over the world. Oregon, and I live in Oregon, does have the perk of the Oregon political tax credit. Mm-hmm. And for folks who have an earning level of, and I don't know exactly what it is right now, it might be like $80,000 something or less, you get $50 every year to give to any political organization or candidate. And it is free money, and it will come back to you on your taxes. So, like, if people are like, well, what's my incentive? But the fundraising rules that you need to know is, like, if you have a very tiny campaign, remember I was talking about how when I first was asking around, they said, $500 or $600. You don't have to file a PAC to fundraise for yourself. But if you think you're going to raise more than that, then you have to follow some rules of engagement with the Secretary of State's office. You need a campaign treasurer. You can contract that out, or you can find someone who wants to do that for your campaign as some talents and time and treasure that they're going to donate to you. But you need to mark that and note that. You're essentially building your own nonprofit organization, although it's a campaign and it's a PAC and it's different. So again, level of campaign will mean what level of activity you're doing. But most campaigns, most people are doing the level that I am, like a city council race. Not everyone's running for Congress or Senate or president.
Right.
So most people are running a city council level or a county commission level or a school board level. And so it is a much more of a small scale. But some essentials around fundraising is asking. You've talked about this multiple times in past podcasts, but whatever amount you think you're going to ask for, you should really double or triple it. Mm. And then when you ask for the amount, if you're doing call time, which is what we call it in political world, when you're calling people for dollars, when you ask for it, can I count on you for a gift of $300? End it with a question that is not $300, that's not meek or timid or
sound
walking
worth
it back instantly.
$300.
And you then need to shut the hell up because you need to let them take a moment to think about, are they going to do that? Are they going to be able to give you $300, or could they give you $100 a month for 3 months or something? I had one person ask me for money one time, and they didn't do their homework, and they said, can I count on you for a gift of $50? And I'm like, at the time, they could have asked me for 2-3 times that. And I thought, I literally gave him the tip of the moment because it's who I am. I'm like, I will give you $50, but you should have asked me for this. Mm. I've also sat doing call time with other candidates. And a story that I remember was with our former governor, Kate Brown, sitting in her attic while she was doing call time. And she told a story of how she has to ask for twice as much to get, half the amount. Mm. And there is still a gender gap around this, I believe.
Yeah.
So it can be tiring. And also now people don't answer the phone. They just don't answer the phone.
Yeah.
You have to text them before you can call them. And it's just the way of the world right now. I will say that I had a great amount of success text banking friends.
Yep.
You know your spheres of people that you could text versus call.
Yep.
And I had a great amount of success. I also did emails. But the thing is like your rate of return on an email is going to be less. Your call time is going to be much greater if you can get them on the phone.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's always the challenge, right? And some people I could just text bank them and get a good amount in. But then, the follow-up, the standard follow-up of following up and sending thank yous and appreciating that gift. And depending again on scale of race, if you have a primary and a general, you could conceivably ask them twice if you have a competitive race. And don't be afraid to ask them twice. I have seen a lot of meekness and timidity, and I understand it. It's so hard for people. I get it. And if you can't sell you, why am I going to feel compelled to vote for you?
Yep.
I need you to believe it. I need us both to be invested in your race.
Yeah. And I think that translates to mission-based orgs as well. Like
absolutely.
If you aren't coming to me with deep passion and emotional connection to what you're talking to me about, how am I going to get there?
Yeah, I appreciate that you said the follow-up, the gratitude.
Yeah.
There's a candidate actually running a race right now that has contacted me twice for a donation. Both times I've said yes, and both times I've received no way to give. And I'm like, the call closed with, I will send you a link in both email and a text, and I haven't gotten that in either time. And it's just such a missed opportunity. Yeah. But I understand the difference too of, in our nonprofit space, sometimes we have resources and we have people and we have volunteers and we have systems in place. And when you're starting a campaign, sometimes you're starting without that. So we're going to take a short break. But when we come back, I want to talk more about demystifying the F word and a little bit about where to get going if we were to inspire someone to jump into a race, probably in a future election, but jumping into being a representative for their community. So we'll be right back.
Ready to take your fundraising to the next level? Need to get unstuck in your event planning? Now's your chance to connect directly with the experts behind the Fundraising Elevator. Book a one-on-one consulting session with Sam for strategic planning and fundraising strategy, with Kristen for your program and storytelling, or Mary for your registration and data tools. They're here to provide you personalized answers to all your event questions. Don't wait. Raise more at your next fundraising event. Book your session today at elevatenonprofit.com. You can also find the link in the show notes.
Welcome back to the Fundraising Elevator. We are talking political campaigns with CM Hall. CM, what were the scariest parts of you jumping into your first race, jumping into the candidate pool in your first race?
For me, because I had moved to Newport in 2015 and I ran in 2018, the newness of running and wondering how I would be received. Also, I intentionally moved to an area that is perceived as rural. We're 10,500, but on any given weekend, we could be 40,000 people because of the ocean.
Yeah.
So we don't feel rural, but we are classified in that respect. So in rural Oregon, how is a queer person who's not going to be apologetic about that, right, going to be received? And also, and I will say that this was something that I did experience because I put energy into my campaign. I knew how to campaign. I'm not going to apologize for that.
Nope.
And so I put out press releases like CM Hall files for office and CM Hall has these 2 campaign events. And I did lawn signs and I did mail and all that stuff. People were saying, oh, she's very ambitious. And I'm like, who doesn't get called ambitious?
That's code.
That's super code. That's code for sit down.
And I sure, ambitious to serve my community, sign me up. Absolutely. Have I cleared my calendar a year plus in advance, knowing that this might be on my plate and schedule? You bet I did. I was serious about this, and I believe that our community deserves people who are serious, who are going to run and step up and lead. So those were scary things, right? and then it's the way that Newport runs their elections is it's the top 3 vote getters. So It was me and 3 men. And again, CM Hall doesn't read as a gender, but oftentimes probably defaults as male. So if you didn't look at a voter's pamphlet statement or anything like that, you might wonder like, wow, who's running? And so I just had to get on the podium. I just had to get number 3. And that's all I was like, I just got to get on the podium. And you know what? I did. And I felt really good about that because I watched what the other folks did. Only one was an incumbent and the other 2 men were folks who did not as much, I'll just say. And I've been attending the city council meetings every 2 weeks for a year. And I've been on the budget committee. So I was already doing the work, but I just wasn't as known in the community. So that was very scary.
Yeah. I appreciate a couple of things you're framing up is that you were not going to apologize for being ambitious. You were not going to apologize for being queer. I think that the importance of the conversation right now is how do we actually have representation making decisions for us in government that impact everything about our lives, the books we can read, the educations we receive, the healthcare choices, that having representation to me is opening up the political space to be more diverse, to be more inclusive, to be able to represent the communities that we have. And there are a lot of barriers to doing that. Before we started recording, you talked about there are a lot of political offices that don't pay a living wage. And while the nonprofit community is used to wearing multiple hats.
Oh, we know that one.
Multiple hats with low wages, but there needs to be some shifts and some changes, and that happens when we have representation. So I appreciate how brave you are in moving into a space that hasn't traditionally been female, hasn't traditionally been queer. When you were in the sort of office, when you were in the race, what were things you learned along the way that you wish you knew before you had run?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you feel like the Emerge program gave you the tools and the nonprofit world you were in gave you the tools you needed?
Yeah, Sam, I think I am just a unicorn in this because
probably true.
I was a nerd around this, right? This is what I do for fun, this is who I am. So not everyone's going to political events and not everyone's running campaigns for funsies or whatever. So I am an outlier, and I totally know that. I totally know that. I was prepared for most of it. Now, there was unkindness, and there at the time was a Alex Jonesy type person, kind of Rush Limbaugh-esque, on the local airwaves, who didn't know me at all, but just had all of these thoughts and was trying to vilify me without ever knowing me. And so that was weird to feel defensive, and I don't know who you think I am. But that show long has gone. And it's just that's going to happen. And again, I do say this on my own podcast when it comes up, because I think that we often talk about, you need to develop a thick skin. And so I've had some training in that, and I don't love that part. That's not my favorite part. At the same time, you need to develop a thick skin and still be yielding and soft and empathetic enough to recognize the needs and ways you need to respond with compassion. So, and also I think we don't talk about, you need to develop a thick skin a lot with men.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just some observations that I have around that, definitely some things that I learned around that. And I also just have figured out ways to be more comfortable, quote, in my own skin, who I am and how I show up, recognizing, this is my chosen community. And there are a lot of people here for a lot of different reasons. And I know my reasons for being here. And how much I love this place. So I can't not be me in it. So I'm just going to show up as the political nerd that I am in rural Oregon as a queer person and know how to run campaigns. That's just who I am going to be.
Amen.
Amen. And
M-E-N.
what's funny is that you say you're a unicorn, but I actually think that lately you might not be so much of a unicorn. You maybe were at a particular time, but I
the
think
wave is catching up.
I think there are a lot of Kornacki fans out there that want to see khaki pants on a big whiteboard doing a lot of analysis for us. And I consider election night like the Super Bowl of the year.
All
like,
the screens.
All the screens. And so I am so excited to see, as the political space starts to evolve and change, new and different voices and different perspectives entering the conversation, because I think that what you're doing is brave. And I think that you're teaching others how to move into a space that might feel scary or might feel a little foreign. So I appreciate that your podcast is helping to do that, that your involvement with Emerge is helping to do that. And just you leading as a demonstration in the world, I think is really a brave, amazing thing.
And leading
Thank you.
Joy.
Yes.
Right. Like
Joy.
and excitement.
Imagine.
You get talking about this stuff and it's palpable, which I love.
I just say to that, sorry about the joy thing. Like I know that that's my superpower, right?
Yeah.
And I have never felt more validated than in the current timing of the fact that now that Kamala Harris is the nominee for the Democratic Party and people are saying that's joy and hope, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like for so long I've had to try to be the square peg in the round hole of let's be serious. I'm like, I can be serious too, but I also can be joyful.
Uh-huh.
And so this feels very much like a reflection. I'm like, thank you. Yeah. And also it's showing that women can be both things.
Yes.
Joyful and serious and strong, multiple things, right?
It's none of it's mutually exclusive. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's much more complicated and people want to simplify it in a way that diminishes all of us. Let's talk. We started talking about house parties. I'm wondering if we can broaden that slightly. We operate in the lane of gatherings and bringing people together. And with all of your background, both in politics and grassroots organizing and all of the things, can you talk a little bit about gatherings and their potential, especially in the political campaign sphere? I think there's literally the fundraising piece. We all know that. We all know that's why we've been invited to whatever it is that we're there. But what other pieces are there to gathering?
I think you both know this and already said it. It's that relational piece, right? And it's vulnerable in some respects. Even if it's the most completely polished and produced event, there's a vulnerability in the ask, in the are you going to give, and trusting that people are going to give at their means, beyond their means a little bit, maybe stretch themselves, right? And we're all together because we understand something that we share is really matters to us. I've put together a lot of events for organizations, and I'm thinking of Basic Rights Oregon, for example, right now, and different dinners that used to produce and luncheons and stuff like that. And sometimes you have a sponsor by the table. So then you have 8 people who are at the table who were asked to come. And then you have 2 people who basically made sure that table was paid for. Mm-hmm. And so the 8 people are like, well, I could be here and I could give, or I don't have to give, right? I'm here for a free dinner potentially. But at the same time, they're going to walk away with something that's going to hopefully uplift them and be like, I was a part of something.
Yeah.
So whether or not I could give at that level, I was a part of something, or I'm going to talk to someone about it. And, I've had campaign fundraisers for myself, and I've been to many, I've talked at many. And I love that part that we're all going to get to be a part of this and say we were team such and such or team so-and-so. In the current moment, as we saw things pivot in July from President Biden stepping back to Vice President Harris stepping forward and watching all of the different constituency groups start to have their own gatherings. It was remarkable, honestly. I had worked for John Kerry's presidential campaign as the deputy political director charged with constituency outreach. So it was labor for Kerry, veterans for Kerry, teachers, every group, right, for John Kerry. And sometimes it felt like we were pulling teeth, but it was, it was a long campaign. It was like 18 months, more or less. And all of that to say that seeing the energy and that people are a part of something that feels like a movement and being a part of it, and to be able to say, like, I gave to this person, or I gave to this organization, or I'm a part of, like, there's just something about that in-group identity and allegiance that feels really special to be able to make that memory with each other. So I would say, like, there is something to be said. And I will say, like, going back to the event, maybe some people donate, right? But they are going to post about it, and they're going to uplift that event. They're going to hashtag about it. They're going to, put it on their Insta. They're going to share about it. And that's going to create awareness and a little bit of FOMO, right? People are like, oh, I need to be at that event, right? And I need to know about that organization, or what is that good work they're doing for the Humane Society, or the tree planting people, or, whatever the organization is, or this candidate that I don't know about. And so I really do love the fundraising that also comes with fundraising. And I think that you get that with events.
Yeah. Well, and being a part of something, studies have shown that's why people give. Right? Yeah. They feel like they're connected. And also those groups getting together right now are groups I'd never thought I'd see.
Well,
it's
and
amazing.
It's
like the thing that's connecting people. They're able to take maybe a piece that they haven't advertised about themselves, or an interest that they have, or a group that they're a part of offline. And now they're able to be together visibly.
Well, but I want to flag that it's happening. Gatherings are happening virtually.
Yeah.
And are having the same powerful impact of FOMO.
It's phenomenal.
Of posting, of social media. I had the joy of joining 2 Zoom calls. One was the White Women for Kamala, and then one was the Out for Harris. And I was on those at the same time. And I did not feel like I had one
multiple
laptop.
Screens, CM, I'm telling you, multiple screens.
I had 2 laptops up, and I did not feel like I was not a part of it. I felt so immersed in both of them. I felt like I could turn the volume up on one, turn the volume down on the other. I could chat with one, I could chat with the other, I could give to one, I could give to the other. And I was able to feel included in both of those things. And that is so new. I mean, you were talking about campaigning before there was the internet. We were not meeting or having conversations or gatherings virtually. And now look at what is happening when we can mobilize in that online forum, where people can talk to another human, be seen, be connected, feel connected. I mean, it's powerful. It's exciting to see.
It's technology for good.
Yeah.
And also pride in the sense that people are surpassing goals.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we set a goal for this event at $1,000 and we got $1,900. And this was back in the day when I was planning house parties. But like those events that are virtual and online, hundreds of thousands of dollars more than they thought.
Yep.
This is incredible momentum, loyal, like just a sense of like, I'm a part of something. Like this is, it's big.
It's sort of like the forces of COVID.
Right.
Actually finally coming back full circle to be technology superpowers, to be able to bring us together in a very different, vital way. We're gonna take a quick break. And when we come back, CM's going to jump in the elevator with us. We'll be right back.
Event planners are discovering Avenue, the Pacific Northwest's new AV-forward event venue, intentionally designed with nonprofit fundraising events in mind. From the 93-foot video production wall to the highest quality sound and lighting, premier AV features are included in every venue rental. You'll find the space and audiovisual enhancements to create your unique and memorable event. Visit avenueportland.com to schedule your personal tour.
Welcome back. Well, I think there's a lot of excitement. Hopefully we've encouraged folks and inspired folks to think about maybe I could consider running for office, because I think that the nonprofit sector is full of amazing leaders, and some of those amazing leaders should be making decisions about our communities. But as we try to inspire fundraisers to think about what role they might be able to have in a political space, I want to leave our fundraisers thinking with a little note of inspiration and hope. So CM, tell me a little bit about a gift you can remember, or a campaign donation that just like changed things for you or inspired you in some way.
I actually have two great examples of this.
Awesome.
And it was for my own campaign. When I, texted people who are kind of my close ones and texted them, it didn't matter. I would get updates on who had made contributions and such. And I remember I was in New York and I was in a cab and I was going to go to like some pride run in Central Park or whatever. And I get this message. It's like, so-and-so donated $500. And I was like, what? Like, what? This is a personal friend who's been a friend of mine for like 25 some years, 30 actually now. But I honestly don't think I would have asked them for that amount. And it's that whole thing of like, I hear a lot, and I don't know if you've heard this a lot, but like, oh, I can't ask them for money. They don't have money or whatever. Like, you do not know the answer to that.
Yeah, right.
You do not know what their priorities are, and you do not know what they care about around that and what they're willing to invest in.
Yep.
And this is someone who's known me for forever, and they do not live in Newport. But they were like, absolutely, I'm supporting her. Same story happened with other friends of mine. Another $500 contribution. Now, was that the most? It might have been the most that I got personally in terms of like a one-time gift, but it was just I felt so humbled by it, but I didn't assume their level. So I would just say like, don't assume a level of their giving, right?
Yep.
People are, and again, I am a big fan of sustaining donors, like monthly donors. That is so important over time. I could talk that up. We could do a whole podcast on how much I love that.
Yes.
But those were huge gifts. And then when I was working on the No on 9 campaign in 2000, me and some friends from college, we hosted our own house party. And again, we were a mix of LGBTQ and not LGBTQ folks. And one of the people at our house party, and again, the goal was $1,000, one of my peers, right? And this was 25 years ago almost now, made a personal gift of $1,000 to our house party. And it just blew me away. Now, granted, I had multiple hats on, right? I'm a co-host, I'm giving to, but I'm also the house party coordinator. So I really want the parties to look good, right? But like this person didn't know that I had a personal goal in my head or whatever, but that this was important to him as a gay man. Like it was his values, it was his identity was being, voted on essentially, when you have these issue campaigns that are about someone's dignity. And it was so meaningful to like see that. I was pretty knee buckled by that. And so those are the takeaways is don't assume someone's giving level.
Amazing.
You just don't know.
Yeah, I agree. It's super important to create the space for people to be the superhero. I would love it if you would join me in the fundraising elevator where we're all headed up. And you just hit on one, but I'm wondering if you have a piece of sage advice or a tool you would recommend to our fundraising superheroes out there so they can keep heading up.
Kristen, how many floors are we going to? How much time do I have?
You pick the floor. You pick the floor.
Is this like the
did you just hit?
Brown
Did I hear you just? You hit all the buttons, didn't you? You just ran your finger down the grid and hit all of the buttons on the way to the penthouse. I hear it.
Or is it like the Charlie Brown, the Chocolate Factory, where the elevator just like breaks through the sky?
Actually, that's better.
That's a better analogy. We're going to break the glass ceiling and we're just bursting out into the sky.
We are.
I mean, my sage advice, I would say don't assume people's giving level, just like we were just talking about. But also, you don't have to be the most perfect, like eloquent person to speak from your own experience about why it matters to you and why you're worth it. or why that candidate is worth it. You know, if it's not you or you're on behalf of someone else, but you do have to really believe in it. And again, I've had people talk to me and I didn't feel it. Like I didn't feel their own campaign. I want to feel that you have a clarity of purpose around it and why it matters, and a touch of vulnerability about the ask.
Yeah.
And then shutting up and not saying anything while someone's considering the ask. It's so
gold
hard
right
to
there.
not backtrack and like soft pedal, be like, okay, I'm only asking you for 25. Like, just shut it. Let me think on it, right? Like, I might be able to do this over monthly gifts. But those are the things. You have to believe in it. If you're asking for yourself, you have to have a clear vision and a clarity of purpose about why they're giving. And you have to be quiet after you ask it so that they have a time to think on their gift and then thank them, of course.
That's the Fundraising Masterclass 101 in a nutshell.
Right there.
Well done. Well done.
Well, if folks are interested in dipping their toes into the political space and want to learn more or be inspired or keep thinking about this, I encourage everyone to tune into CM's podcast, Her Own Wings, because this is the topic all the time, is inspiring women to be running for office. Thank you for joining us, CM. We're so glad that you were able to come and share your experience. Next week, we have coming up something kind of exciting. We're heading off to the RAISE conference, the annual fundraising conference, and we're going to be talking to a lot of big folks that are going to be sharing their stories of fundraising advice. So be sure to tune in. And also, we just want to remind everyone that there are some big things happening in our communities. There are some big elections happening. Get to know your candidates, get to understand what's on your ballot, understand the initiatives. And important, make a plan for voting. There are a lot of different ways folks vote. In Oregon, we vote by mail. I appreciate that system so much. It allows us as a family to sit down and go through the candidates and the ballot measures and understand who's been endorsed by who. But if you are voting at the ballot box, we encourage you to make a plan, take the day off, be prepared to stand in line, have a picnic ready, because we want to make sure that your voice is
And most importantly,
counted.
know your rights while you're there.
Yes, know your rights while you're there. Thank you, Kristen. Make sure your voice is counted, and then perhaps maybe stick your toe in the water and jump into an office. There's so many places where your leadership matters. Sam, thank you for sharing your experience. Everyone can be inspired by you, and thank you for your leadership. We appreciate you.
Newport is all the better for it.
Yes.
Am I allowed to say one more thing?
Of course.
You of course can.
You know, when I got into the fundraising space working for Basic Rights Oregon back in the day, I really didn't know anything about fundraising. So I had to kind of learn it all on the job. And that took me to learning a lot about development and really appreciated what resources are out there. And this was, again, before like podcasts or anything. But I really want to say that I love that you are holding this space in a podcast platform, because there are a lot of folks in a lot of ways that people are fundraising that is not just professional development officer or a gifts officer. And so I just really appreciate the accessibility of your podcast and that people can take it in anywhere. So just want to say thank you for creating that space.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us in it.
Yeah, we appreciate you. We appreciate that so much. And for everyone tuning in, if you enjoy what you're hearing, please follow along. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced in partnership with Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson, Heidi Christensen, and Adam Breeden. Video production by Shannon Doran. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. Marketing by Lisa Aragon. Support from Mary Elizabeth, Todd Campbell, John Lyles, and Andy Dowsett. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Friends, before we leave you, we want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please follow, subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Are you ready to engage supporters and grow your base with your own podcast? Then let us introduce you to our partners at the AV department in Portland, Oregon. In addition to delivering exceptional live event audiovisual production and videography, they also have a top-tier production studio and an expert team ready to take your content ideas to the next level. Contact the AV department to schedule a consultation and start bringing your podcast vision to life. Unleash the power of events to energize your donors and amplify your mission. Join us at the Elevate Conference in 2025, where you'll learn the essential tools for planning a successful fundraising event. Book your tickets now for March 12th and 13th. This dynamic hybrid conference, hosted at Avenue in Portland, Oregon, and streamed live for our virtual audience, will equip you with practical tools, demos, and templates that you can put to work immediately. Don't miss out. Secure your spot today at Elevate 2025. Visit elevatenonprofit.com to register now. Elevate Conference 2025 is brought to you by Swaim Strategies and the AV Department, powered by elevatenonprofit.com.